So, Diana, I'm super excited to have you here today. You started Maverick Systems 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, something like that. Can you kind of tell us how you got there? Like, what were you doing before? How did you get into the real estate space? Tell us your story.
Yeah, no, thanks, Christine. Greatly appreciate being here with you. I just absolutely love chatting with you. So I came into real estate over 22 years ago as an agent, and I ended up leaving my corporate job at the time for American Express. And I wanted to pursue more entrepreneurial pursuits like many people that get into the business. So I was about 25 years old when I got into the real estate industry. And like many new agents, I was struggling to find business. And if you feel like it's hard to find business as a new agent, imagine being 25. It was very, very difficult. And what I was finding is that there were mentors in my office and, people that were more seasoned that were telling me that, you should select a geographic farm, go door knock, send mailers, do all of this kind of stuff to generate business. And, I did it all. And I spent a lot of time and I spent a lot of money pursuing these sort of things. And I didn't sell one home my first year. What I was finding was there were a lot of first-time home buyers that I really resonated with. And so I started just haphazardly selling homes to my friends, and they would refer me to their friends. But I share all this to say that I started to look at the analytics and I started to look at my metrics, how much money I was spending, what my conversion rates were, where my lead sources were coming from, and found very quickly that it wasn't in the place that I was investing. In fact, it was in the place that I wasn't paying a lot of attention to. And that's what started my love of tracking analytics to produce better outcomes. So fast forward several years, I kind of stepped away from the industry, came back on the analytics side, and we had been working for the last several years with a lot of large brokerages and supplying agent analytics for the purpose of recruitment, retention, and coaching, but was finding that there's a real gap in our industry in data literacy. Like, I see the data, I understand it. What do I actually do with it? And that was the catalyst for forming Maverick Systems, was not just to give you the data, but to build strategy around it and integrate it into your already existing systems.
So, talk a little bit more about that, because I feel like I agree with you. There's a lot of illiteracy when it comes to data, probably because so many of us in the business are salespeople and marketing people, and data is just not our strength, right? And so people, I see it happen in meetings. Their eyes just kind of glaze over. So when it comes to recruiting and retention and coaching, why is data so important?
So I think it's important to say, because I've heard this so many times where people say, "Oh, numbers are stale, numbers are boring." I'm not a numbers person.
Yeah.
And I always say data analytics is not really about numbers. We have to shift the way that we look at it. It's about insight. And I can use those numbers to gain tremendous insight. So think of it this way. Let's say you're on the market for a new car, okay? And you go to an auto mall where they have every type of car you can imagine. And before you get there, they've already looked up your entire car shopping history. They know what type of car you get, what color car you get, if it's new, if it's used, if you finance, if you lease it, if you pay cash, how long you keep it, when you trade it in. They even know if you tend to speed, or if you're prone to accidents and you may need a safer car. They know everything about you. And based on what they know about you, they can pick the perfect 2 or 3 cars for you and have all your different financing options ready for you. And that's what data analytics can do. It can know everything about a person or reveal everything about a situation, so that now I know how to navigate. I know what types of decisions to make and what's going to result in the best outcomes. So
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so we can bring this back around to real estate, right? In real estate, we can know about agents. Like if you put it in a recruitment context, I can know what markets they're selling in. Are they buy side heavy, list side heavy? How are they trending? Is production trending up? Is it trending down? Where do they struggle? And where can I add value?
So I think that's so super important. And having worked at the brokerage level, I think we intuitively know the people or the players in the market. And so because of that, we assume we know all that data about them, right? And it's sort of like all in our heads. And I know that a lot of brokers just aren't really sort of scientific about how they go about recruiting or how they go about retaining or coaching their own people, because they're trying to do a million things and they feel like sort of they know intuitively who these people are. But I love you've taken sort of this glazed over like numbers conversation and made it into like, wow, like we could create a picture or a story around a persona. And I know you talk about personas a lot. That's a lot of, how you help people like me connect the dots. Can you talk a little bit about what personas are and why they're important and how a broker could actually leverage them?
Yeah, no, great point. And I feel like this is becoming more and more of a conversation nowadays, that we're becoming a little bit more data driven. So in marketing, a persona is a semi-fictional representation of what your ideal buyer would be, or ideal client. And so at Maverick and in agent recruitment, we define probably, I want to say, close to a dozen different personas suited to the types of agents that either exist in your market or exist in your agent pool. And the idea is that we can do this analysis to identify, for example, we can analyze your own agent pool to say, okay, well, this is a representation of what your agents look like. They tend to be newer, they tend to be producing in this range, or they tend to be luxury or whatever that is, but we can put some numbers around the personas. Once we've got those personas defined, that's going to help to shape all of the messaging that we do on the recruitment side. So like all the content that we're putting out there is going to be created to resonate with those specific personas. As well, internally, our coaching and our training programs can be driven by the needs of our agents. And I'll give you one really interesting data point, is actually studies show that real estate agents hardly ever move from one brokerage to another in their first year. So these are like brand new agents. The idea is like, why wouldn't an agent make a move, a new one? Well, they're probably overwhelmed with just learning the business, how to write a contract, that sort of stuff. However, studies show that the numbers skyrocket. Year 2, year 3, year 4 are the highest, where the agent is most at risk of leaving their current broker for another. The numbers stay pretty high till they hit about year 7 or 8, when they drop off significantly and stabilize. So knowing this data point, I can look into my own agent pool, identify and segment out the agents in my brokerage that are in their 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th year of real estate, and take a look at how they're trending, where they can, where I can add value, where they might need help, and get ahead of the conversation before, they come to me and tell me that they're leaving for another firm.
So I know you have that's really smart. How do you, when you're talking to a broker, do you have the personas broken out for them? Like if I'm a broker, like how do I understand like what the different personas are?
Yeah, so we do have an agent persona cheat sheet. Actually, people can download on our website, and I'll give that to you later. But we do have about a dozen different personas that we work with. Now, I recently started working with a client who said to me, yeah, I love your personas, but I want to add a couple of others that are unique to our firm, because he has some very special programs that he runs. And so we're able to create that for him. And once we've got the persona created, the reason this is important is we can go into your database and we can tag them as such. So for example, one persona that I absolutely love is like the listing assist. These are agents that are high buy side heavy. They're doing a certain number of transactions. But the listing assist persona is made up of agents that are looking to increase their list side business. Okay. So we can tag them as such in your database. That way you can easily pull every agent that meets that persona to, send out an email to them, to set up coaching calls with them. But yeah, we do work with the client. We'll run two different analyses. So one analysis that we'll run is on their firm because we want to see what their current agent mix looks like. How many years in business are they? What kind of production levels are they doing? Are they list side? Are they buy side heavy? And then we present our findings to the brokerage leader to say, this is what you guys look like today. Let's plan for the brokerage of the future. Are you comfortable with this? Or would you like your veterans to represent a higher population in your brokerage? And then we look at the market as well. And we'll run an analysis on the market to determine the agent mix that's in the market. And the reason we do that is because the agents you might be looking for or you think are a good fit for your firm may not be heavily represented in your market. For example, luxury. Somebody said, well, I want to increase our luxury agent count. Well, that just may not be very representative in your market. Another one is like the rising star persona. This is one that I get often where people will say, I would love to identify agents in our market that are doing that have been in business less than 3 years, have sold at least 4 to 6 sides in the last year, and have taken at least 1 or 2 listings, indicating that they're trending upward, that there's upward mobility in their career, right? However, in most markets, that represents about 5% of the population. So the idea is, right, if we're targeting our messaging, our content, our programming around this persona, we're allocating resources in an area where there's not going to be a huge payback.
Oh my God, that's so interesting. And I just don't think broker owners even think like this. The other thing that came to mind is, so last week we had Nancy Robinson on the podcast, and we talked specifically about aging agents and, agents, those particular agents being able to retire profitably. Mm-hmm. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, over 65% of realtors, according to National Association of Realtors, are over the age of 50. So it's a huge population, right? So if you think about like what you're looking at when you look at a brokerage, probably a large percentage of that brokerage has an aging agent population. So the question would be, how do we, number one, coach these agents so that they can transition profitably? And number two, part of that strategy would be to take those under 3 years agents and maybe align them with the aging agent so that, they can potentially transition into their book of business while the aging agent can retire.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's why we look at the agent mix, like what's your current agent mix, because we can start to plan for that brokerage of the future. So, those agents that you've identified, those aging out agents, they don't move to other firms. The numbers are like very low in movement to another firm. So they do bring a lot of stability to the brokerage in that way. However, there is a point where they start to retire out of the business. So it's really important to bring in those newer agents. But if we can identify the newer agents that we know are going to be a good fit for us, then that's going to be a lot better than, and we can identify it in the data rather than just recruiting everybody and seeing what sticks. And then we can start to be really deliberate about the programs we create.
Yes. Okay. So let's say we've brought in, we've done the work of identifying the right fit for us. I'm a broker owner. We bring, a bunch of, newer agents in, 3 years in the business. They're all buy heavy. So they're what you call like listing assist agents. Now let's say they've been with my company for, 8 months to a year. How do I then take the data and sit with them and coach them to increase their listings?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So listing assist is my absolute favorite persona. And the reason I love this persona is because number one, it makes up generally about 20 to 25% of your market or your own agent pool. So it's representing a pretty big population. The other reason why I really like this persona is on the recruitment side, you can create a lot of really great educational messaging and content that's going to resonate with them. And internally, there's some cool things that you can do to coach these agents. So listing assist, we're looking at agents that are doing high buy side, so less than 40% on the list side. We're looking for agents that have done have taken and closed a couple of listings, because we want to see a demonstrated ability to sign and close a listing at some level. And so what we can do is run the data in your database to isolate them out. Okay. And if we're talking about agents that are in your own pool, in your own brokerage, what I always recommend doing is schedule a coaching meeting with them. And there's two different sets of data you want to bring to that meeting. So the broker wants to bring data that can be found in the MLS. It's data that we produce as well at Maverick. It's going to be that agent's active listing count, or excuse me, their signed listings over the last year, how many listings they took, as well as how many of those listings closed. You want to bring the average days on market, as well as the list to sell ratio. And going into the meeting, you want to ask the agent to bring in, over the last year, if this is the first time you're doing it, get the last year's numbers. You want them to bring in the number of seller conversations they have had that are documented in their CRM. So this can be how many cold calls they made to sellers. It can be a conversation that you had with your brother's neighbor at their barbecue. Anyone that you have had a real conversation with about listing their home, track those and bring that number of conversations to that meeting. Additionally, the agent wants to bring the number of listing appointments they have been on. Because what happens is when you take all that data and you start to plot it out, you get to see how many conversations led to how many appointments, led to how many listings taken, led to how many closed, how long did it take, what did it sell for. So once we've created this sort of listing funnel, it's then very easy to identify where that agent is getting stuck. And it may be at step one where you're simply not having the listing conversations. So you build a listing funnel.
Yep.
And once you've got that listing funnel created and you've got all the numbers along that listing journey, you can see clearly where that agent is getting stuck. So it may be at step one where they're simply not having enough conversations. So then that training or coaching session, that conversation is going to be around, how can we give you strategies to help you generate listing leads? Or it may be, maybe they're having a lot of conversations. Maybe they're going on a lot of listing appointments, but they're not converting it. They're not taking the listing. Then the conversation changes to, what's your listing presentation look like? How do you generate excitement ahead of time? What's your follow-up look like?
Yes.
Why do you think you're not getting that listing? Right.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. I think uncovering the problem is always the biggest problem. Once you uncover the problem, the solutions are easy.
Well, it's really about having the data and asking the right questions.
Right.
It's like anything, like dig deep to find the root cause of the problem.
Exactly. And I always look at data as like a compass. Data is a very powerful tool that will point you in the direction that you need to go. And so another strategy, if you're coaching this listing assist persona, is they can say to you, well, I want to take more listings. My primary market is the Lakeview neighborhood of Chicago, and I want to grow, my presence there. Okay, great. Well, we've got the data on all the firms that are taking the majority of listings in the Lakeview neighborhood of Chicago. So we can look to say, okay, well, looks like App Properties and Jameson Sotheby's own a huge listing market share there. And it's largely attributed to these 10 agents that are doing 80%, taking 80% of the listings there. So if you want to compete on getting listings in Lakeview, these are the 5 to 10 agents you're probably going to be up against. So maybe check out their social media, see what their strategies are. How do they market themselves?
Yeah, that's so smart. So smart. So simple, yet hard to do, I think. Like it's not necessarily intuitive, but it's always important to have the data because it just grounds you. I feel like it gets you, it puts you in the place. It's a foundational piece to your point. That's like a compass that will point you in the right direction. And you can feel confident that you're going in the right direction when you have the data to support it. I think it's really important.
Truly important. And always start with the question or the problem. What's my
Yeah.
problem? What am I struggling with? Or even if it's not a problem, what opportunities do I want to pursue? What do I
Yeah.
want to achieve this year? Because when you start with either the opportunity or the problem, but you start with the question, then
Yeah.
then we know what direction to go in, and it becomes a lot easier to get those answers rather
Yes.
than opening up a giant spreadsheet of numbers and it's like, well, yeah, I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, how often should a broker owner, let's put the recruiting piece aside, like, and focus on the retention piece and the coaching piece. How often should they be looking at this data about their agents?
I would look at it weekly. So at Maverick, we update the data monthly, but you want to take action on it weekly. And so you want to have some sort of strategy that you're going to go undertake on a weekly basis. So for example, it could be this week, I want to reach out to all those listing assist agents and I want to schedule meetings with them over the course of the next month. Or um, it could be that I want to identify all the agents in my brokerage that either have a zero listing count or have enough listings pending that it's going to drop them to a zero.
Yep.
Because agents are more likely to make a move when their inventory drops, right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
couple that with maybe agents that are in their second, third, fourth year, and it'll give you a really short hot list of people that you should probably stay in touch with because they're at higher risk of departure.
Yeah.
And if I let that lead me every month and I dedicate, okay, the second week of every month is dedicated
Okay.
to agents that look like this. And, maybe it's just 5 people. I'm going to make those 5.
Yeah.
So I'm going to set up those 5 meetings.
That's so awesome. So, what type of results have you seen when a brokerage uses data to drive their business?
Yeah, I think so there's 2 types of outcomes that you're going to get. There's the more immediate outcomes, and then there's the longer term play. On the immediate side, you can see like if you're employing pretty like more in the moment type strategies, like for example, if I use the data to identify agents in my office that I need to have a conversation with, or I send out an email campaign or a text or call campaign, you're going to see immediate results coming in where you'll see more meetings on your calendar. You're going to recruit some agents. You're going to start having good conversations. And what I would say is I usually see like 90% of the companies that'll stop at that and they get good results. However, there's the longer term play where I don't look at the agents on an individual level, but I sort of take a higher level look to look at my brokerage to say what percentage of my agents fit this profile, and then how am I supporting that profile or that persona.
Yep.
So if I have a lot of agents in my office that are brand new, like we just specialize in new agents, 60-70% of our brokerage is made up of 0 to 1 year or 0 to 2 year agents. Okay, well, let me look at my programming. Do I have a really strong ramp up program that's like, we're going to get you into production your first 90 days, or how effective is that program if we do have a program as such? And do we have a
Yep.
mentorship program?
Yep.
So it's aligning the training, the program, the tools, the resources with the personas that are heavily represented in our firm. Or if I don't like the personas that are represented in our firm and I want to change that, then I'm going to allocate resources to messaging and content externally that's going to attract the persona that we do want to grow in our firm.
Yeah.
So I would say, don't just stop at saying, okay, well, I've got a list of agents in my market and I'm going to send them all an email or a text or, make cold calls. But go high level to use it to drive your marketing strategies, your education, your content.
Well, I think it actually even starts at a higher level than that. It's like, what is your vision as an organization? What kind of a brokerage do you want to be? Who is it that you want to serve? And then, everything falls underneath that. Is it new agents? Is it that mid-tier? Where's your profit? Like which agent is the most profitable for you? And then, and then you can kind of go after that, to your point, with, programming and marketing and messaging and all of that stuff. So fascinating.
Exactly
So
true.
fascinating.
And I'll even go one further on this. If you start to become a data-driven brokerage and you're using it internally with your own agents, you're using it externally to market and recruit, what's going to happen is your strategies are going to translate down to your agents.
Yes.
They're doing the same thing, right? They're trying to get buyers and sellers to work with them. They want to market themselves. They should be creating personas of what their, ideal client should look like.
Yes.
And
And that's what, honestly, it's what we do with our clients all the time. And we are huge advocates and believers in getting really, really focused on who your ideal customer is. And that's essentially what all of this is about, and I think it's what's true for agents is also true for brokers, which is they are afraid if they focus in on a persona or a very niche sort of ideal client or customer, then they won't get all of this other business, right? They won't get these other agents, or they won't get these other buyers and sellers. And that is simply not true. 100%. Because this is a relationship business at the end of the day, and your referral business will, whether you're a broker or an agent, will continue to come in, but you will skyrocket your business and become extremely profitable if you focus on that one ideal client.
That honestly, it's 100% true. And I'm living proof of it. I did not sell one house my first year of real estate because I was trying to be everything to everyone. And maybe that works for some people. It really didn't work for me. I was 25 years old, and here I am going to a homeowner and saying, hey, I can list your home. And they're like, yeah, thanks, kid, pass. But it wasn't until I sort of stumbled into this niche of working with first-time home buyers that my business started to take off. And what I ended up doing was solely focusing on first-time home buyers. So not just working with my friends and their friends, but I started hosting first-time home buyer seminars, got a ton of leads. And it was all of these people that honestly were underrepresented themselves because more seasoned agents weren't exactly looking to work with them. So it was like this really great match. My business went from 0 the first year to just under 4 million by my third year.
Yeah.
And 4 million at that time, 25 years ago, was really good. When in my neighborhood, the average house was like 200,000.
So smart, because everything falls into place once you're like laser focused on that ideal customer. Everything falls into place. And the data supports it. Like that, getting back to the data, like I think it doesn't have to be this overwhelming, oh my God, look at this spreadsheet with all these numbers. It's really about just understanding the story of your business. Who is your ideal customer? Where are you getting your business from? And what's the brokerage of the future? Where do you want to go as an agent? No matter whether you're an agent or a broker, it's having that vision and really understanding the story of your business through the data.
Yeah. And I think the biggest struggle, and this was the catalyst for forming Maverick, is like the data is there. And a lot of brokers have access to really good data. They're not using it. And it is very overwhelming to look at the numbers and say, well, what am I looking for? And what do I do with it? And that's why, for me, it was really important to create a company that had a lot of coaching and support. Like I really didn't feel good about just saying, well, here's the data and off you go, but rather to say, here's the data. Now let me walk with you and show you how you use it. But first, let me learn your business and see, like, how are you using it? I want to get a good lay of the land.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing? Where can I add value to that?
I love how you said, let me walk with you. Like, this is one of the things I love about you, Diana. And I think why, like, this network of entrepreneurs that you and I are part of, it's not about like, here you go, see you later. It is definitely the reward, and I can see it in you too. The reward we always get is like watching our clients bloom and blossom and grow and get to where they want to go. And I love that about you and what you're doing with your company. So
Thank you. Likewise. No, I'm all about an abundance for all mentality,
yeah.
and, let's, build something great together. Let's have fun along the way. And,
Mhm.
wherever we can add value, we're going to try to do that. And, I love this industry, and I just think that there's a great opportunity here. Like, we're really on the precipice of something wonderful. And I know that some people push back against AI, some have embraced it. And I would say, AI has its place, data has its place. It's going to point you, it's going to give you an edge, it's going to enhance what you're already doing. But this industry has phenomenal people that are extremely empathic and relational. The data is going to make you better at that, and it's going to make you efficient at that.
Yes.
So.
I love it. So Diana, as we start to wrap up here, of everything we've talked about, what are the three most important things that you think would be most important for our community to take away?
I think it's important to start small. Don't get overwhelmed. If you get overwhelmed, you will probably fall into the trap of doing nothing. Pick one strategy. Look at your firm and say, what is one problem I wish I could solve? Come up with, or what's one opportunity that I really want to pursue? And use the data that you have, and don't feel an overwhelming need to buy everything that looks shiny and promises great results. I think we have kind of like a tech overload in our industry and just in the world in general, where you have a lot of people buying a lot of platforms and trying to knit together this tapestry of softwares. And that's typically going to work more against you than for you, because it starts to get really clunky and overwhelming. So I would start small with that. And then, ask a lot of questions, be curious. I think sometimes, especially if we're extremely seasoned, we fall into the trap of, that's not going to work. I know what I'm doing. I'm good. And it's like, well, take a few minutes to ask a few questions. It doesn't hurt to explore alternate perspectives and solutions, and, receive it, don't believe it. Ask the questions, get the information, don't necessarily have to do anything with it,
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
Use it as an exploration. Be curious. I just approach everything in life with a curiosity,
Yeah. It's a good philosophy to have. Finish this sentence. Know, like, trust is.
Wow. Know, like, trust is, I think it is feeling that sense of peace, that you are in the right place.
Oh my God, I love it. Love it. How do people get in touch with you?
You can go to our website. It's simply mavericksystems.com. And there's links there for an agent persona cheat sheet. So if anybody wants to grab that cheat sheet, there's a little pop-up when you go to the website that you can just click on and download. It's called a value prop tool that leads you through creating your unique value proposition in terms of recruitment. And it's got the agent persona cheat sheet in there. So people can download that on the website. And you can also book a discovery call where we can talk through your business and, any problems that you're having, challenges or opportunities you want to pursue, and how data can help with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. This has been completely invaluable, great information. And I am going to make sure everybody knows how to get to your site so that they can get that cheat sheet, because that is an invaluable piece of data for them.
There you go.
If you're listening, thank you so much for listening, everyone. I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you, Diana, and take care, everyone. Ciao.
Thank you.